I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start with a moment of silence, please. Roll call. I will start with Commissioner Shimke.
Here.
Commissioner Smith is present. Commissioner Stiebens. Commissioner Culbertson.
Here.
Commissioner KAAZ.
Here.
All commissioners are present in some form. Do we have anybody registered for any public comment that's on the agenda items? On our public comment for anything on agenda items that was registered, and I don't believe we have any. So we'll move on down to administrative business. Do we have any administrative business this time, Mr. LOUGHRY?
I did have one request. Commissioner Shimke had asked if we would consider the schedule for next week's regular meeting.
Yeah, since we have the evening meeting on Wednesday, I thought maybe it would make more sense to move our regularly scheduled Wednesday morning meeting to Tuesday morning, so it's not a 20-hour day.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not opposed to having a 20-hour day. I just thought it might make more sense to split those up rather than have the two meetings on the same day.
We don't have a whole lot on there. Could we have our regular meeting at 5 o'clock on Wednesday and have our other one at 6 o'clock? Would that be? But I'll for either way. Don't get me wrong. I'll be here whatever day.
Is it a live agenda?
Well, there's still items that could be added, but as of right now, it's not. I think you have it there in front of you. There's not there's nothing specific, I guess, that we're calling on.
Or could we even start at 5:30?
I'm okay with that.
Or move it up if we're worried that topics could extend. Maybe even 3 o'clock. It doesn't matter to me. I'm
fine with the 5 o'clock. It's good with me. But
Well, if it's if we're just got a consent agenda and a couple of things, we could probably knock that out in a half hour.
Yeah, it would just basically anything that we were going to look at for work session would just. Given the long meeting next week, we probably wouldn't schedule much of a work session anyway. So 5 o'clock would more than likely work.
That's fine by me.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Culbertson. I can go anytime, but just say if you want to coordinate it, I have Easton City Monday night at 6 and Leavenworth City Tuesday night at 7. So I would prefer Wednesday at 5.
Okay.
Works for me.
good with that.
Commissioner KAAZ, you have an opinion?
I'm available anytime.
Okay. Then we good at 5 o'clock Wednesday? Okay.
Yep.
Do we have to
Need a
vote on
motion?
that, or is it just consensus?
So they have to vote on that to amend the regular.
Need a motion?
Yes.
Make a motion to move our regularly scheduled meeting for next Wednesday, the 8th, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any further discussion on the meeting change? Voting.
Aye.
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 Commissioner KAAZ votes aye.
Commissioner Culbertson votes aye.
Thanks, Chet, for bringing it up. We have any other administrative business this time?
I don't know, where should we engage in this discussion on the issues that have come up related to the governor's order, and should that be in the administrative time?
Commissioners can choose to discuss that whenever they like. It's not an agenda item, so it's whenever you want to put it in on your agenda if that's your desire.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think now's a good time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know how to start it out. I just think the information I've received is that the governor will be issuing a order on Thursday, and order on Thursday, and that she will require, if you're not able to maintain social distancing outdoors or indoors or in any location, it will be a statewide order to be required to wear masks. And then I've been informed that the counties, by the House Bill 2016, that was adopted at the special legislative session, have the authority to determine if, because of the rate of infections being equalized or not, we don't have a big outbreak, whether we would want to retain our current recommendations rather than go with the state mandate, and that would be a discussion for the board.
All right, but we haven't seen the order yet, and I don't know how it would even be enforced.
David, quick question. So this House bill, it was a surprise to me very early on that while a local municipality has the ability to be more restrictive, it was my understanding that you could not be less restrictive. Now this new House bill, as I understand it, gives, again, local authority the ability to either supersede or overrule in matters such as this. So if on Thursday evening the announcement and mandate was made, we then would have the ability, say, to meet Thursday night or Friday morning and have that discussion, a special meeting as a board, as to whether or not we agree or disagree with that mandate. Is that fair?
That's a fair analysis, Commissioner. The House Bill 2016 contemplates that the local authorities, in consultation with your local health officer, can adopt regulations that are different from those adopted on a state level by the governor's executive order.
So, Mark, I guess my question would be, it's not lost on me that it's a holiday weekend, and you don't want to know what I think about the governor planning an announcement for a Thursday night before a holiday weekend. If my mind was made up, I think a good leader could probably make that announcement on Monday. But anyway, would Thursday evening make more sense for a special meeting in anticipation of an announcement, or Friday morning, given the courthouse is closed with the holiday? Is that a larger conflict?
Well, I think, I think that the governor chooses to make these announcements intentionally at the time that she does, to allow the least amount of time for us to respond. Did it at Easter weekend, Memorial weekend, and now the 4th of July weekend. It just is ironic that all three of those weekends had an order that came out last minute with no preview by anybody, so we have a chance to react. Don't have a chance to react. I think from a scheduling standpoint, it doesn't matter if it's a Thursday evening or a Friday morning or afternoon, because they're all after our regular hours. I mean, Friday's a holiday for us, which again I think was intentional on the governor's part potentially, but regardless of where we support or don't support, I think it was problematic with the time that she is making this announcement. Thursday night works just as well as Friday, I believe.
And what if we just didn't do anything? I mean, there's no way this can be enforced. I mean, we do not have that much law enforcement to go around enforcing this.
Well, and I think that's one of the concerns, and I've had a number of even municipalities that reach out, that if we don't make our position known ahead of time, we're taking a holiday weekend that's already full of calls potentially. As you can imagine, I mean, 4th of July weekend, there's the possibility of being overran. Whether or not they can enforce it or not, it still creates phone calls and potential concern and risk, and there are people that will overrun those systems we have in place. So, I mean, I think it's in our best interest to have a meeting before the weekend. I'm just trying to find out, because I'm aware of everybody's plans, but whether it's Thursday evening, Friday morning makes me no difference. I'd just like consensus of the group.
Well, if we were going to have one, it needs to be Thursday evening, I think. And what time will the announcement be?
I'm sure by 8, at least.
We haven't had any indication of when it's going to be. I think the last time something like this came out, it's like 6:15 as part of the evening news or something like that.
And I'm okay with 8 o'clock. I just wouldn't want to take the risk of 8 o'clock and a press conference not happening until 7:30. And I don't know. I mean, if we're not worried about that, if we think that any decision that's made will be out by 6:30 or 7, then 8 o'clock sounds fine.
So,
This is Commissioner Culbertson.
Go ahead.
Since Mike brought it up, I was going to mention too that I received about 300 emails from people, and all but 3 were against the mask mandate. And so, just so they know, I agree. I don't want to mandate everyone wear masks all the time everywhere, but I think it should be a choice. And the people that don't want to be around people that don't wear masks, they can choose not to go there.
Correct.
If the governor does order this, I think we can home rule out of requiring it in our county. If I can get 2 other commissioners and our health director to agree with me. But it's a little more complicated than that, and I think a lot of people don't see the whole picture. We're about $7 million short on our budget because people haven't paid their taxes, understandably, for the most part, due to people lost their jobs or wages. The problem with that is people not paying their taxes is that's what we use to pay law enforcement, the ambulance, fire service, roads, etc. The Fed sent us money to cover this, but they sent it to the state to disperse to us. And the state is holding this money and not giving it to us. We've got to figure out a way to defy, their order and get our money too. And I understand, the bigger picture. It's not so much about wearing a mask. It's more about being told what to do. It's ironic to me the government is going to impose this power over us the day before our Independence Day. It didn't work out so good in 1776. I'm not sure it's going to work out very good today. But anyway, I just want people to know we're working on a solution, but it's a little more complicated than us just saying we're not going to do it.
Kind of ironic we will be celebrating 1776 this weekend.
Exactly.
But I look at it, you're absolutely correct, Commissioner Culbertson. I look at it as when I go to the doctor and they tell me I need to lose 20 pounds and quit eating out fast food and all that, I can walk away and make my own decision. And obviously I have. So, but at the same way, I don't know how we could ask, or law enforcement could take on this. They're understaffed now. Like I said, if law enforcement has time to do this, then maybe they have time to check out our missing personnel files in this county. It should be an open and shut case. They showed up on the 6 o'clock news. We know who took them, but we can't get it investigated. So I don't know how we can go around policing masks.
Just to comment on Commissioner Culbertson's point, I think it was dealing with the CARES Act funding. I did reach out to a district representative, and he contacted the Speaker's office, and he indicated that the CARES Act funding would not in any way be in jeopardy by us acting on the legislation that they approved in the special session, which was House Bill 2016.
My only comment about that would be that the Speaker and the Governor are not always on the same page, and the Governor's office has control over those funds. So.
This is Commissioner KAAZ.
Go ahead.
The Speaker is on the CARES Act committee that is allocating those funds.
He's on
Mark,
the
that's
finance.
interesting.
And he's
Quid
gonna
pro
bring
quo
that
type
up.
situation.
On the
If you're not
finance
able to tell
committee.
you, then ultimately there's a negative.
And he's going to bring it up at the meeting today,
Good.
the Speaker, at their meeting. But, so I don't think we should use even the remote thought that we wouldn't get these funds as an excuse for us to allow this order to stand. I think it's, I personally believe we should continue with our recommendations that our county health officer drafted and that are currently in effect. And those have worked very well. Most businesses are having their employees in masks, and I see a lot more people in the stores in masks. Masks is a recommendation, but it's not a one-size-fits-all thing either. On the railroad, we have a mask requirement when you're in close proximity, but if you're out working on the tracks or you're out in maintenance of way, you're not required to wear a mask because it wouldn't be healthy. So I think this is a one-size-fits-all approach by the governor, and the disappointing thing is that if she was really concerned about the 4th of July weekend and there being gatherings and that kind of thing. And she had a real concern for that. She would have rolled this out 3 weeks ago rather than springing it on the people of Kansas literally the night before the holiday. It's a real disappointment, and I think we should continue with what we're operating under right now. Our county health officer has come up with recommendations that are currently implemented. All we have to do is continue with those.
So that would not require a special meeting.
Well, it would, because we have to act.
Right. I mean, that would be my understanding.
Right.
Is that if that is our intention, then we will have to meet post the governor's announcement on Thursday.
Right.
So while I think either meeting time is inconvenient for all involved, and I apologize, and it's not lost on me that staff wants to be with family and friends, a safe distance, of course, I guess, unless you live in the same roof. That maybe 8 o'clock on Thursday evening would be a less of an inconvenience than Friday morning, given we'll already be in session and have regular hours on Thursday. So I would make a motion that we have a special meeting Thursday evening at 8 p.m. unless staff disagrees that we'll know what we need to know by then. So
Second.
You think we'll have to wait that late?
better safe than sorry.
Can we have a little bit of further discussion? I don't mind having a meeting, but there is one thing that I would like for consideration. I understand that the blanket order of masks is a little bit, goes maybe too far, but we don't have any requirement in place for businesses that provide any form of health care to require their patrons to wear masks. They may be requiring their staff members, but patients or clients can come in without a mask. And I specifically know of an incident, I'm living it, where that resulted in positive COVID testing because of exposure from someone coming into a business that was rated.
Mm-hmm.
And their staff members, several now have the COVID virus. So I think that our health officer may need to look at perhaps a very limited requirement for masks.
Mm-hmm. Right. I went to the dentist last week. They required a mask, and they take your temperature and ask you questions, and then they clear you to go on back, and then you take the mask off and get your work done. And I just thought all healthcare providers required masks when you go in. But
Dr. Dean did.
Yeah,
I went there.
Optometrist. Yeah.
Not all do, or maybe they do now, but not all did.
Okay.
Well, we'll know a lot more by the meeting tomorrow night. We'll know what the order actually says and that kind of thing.
Okay. Surely it would be announced by the 6 o'clock news, wouldn't it? You would think. Not necessarily?
I'm not the governor. I can't tell you when she's going to
I
make
wish
that
you were,
announcement.
Mr. Lawfrey.
I'm glad I'm not.
It doesn't matter to me. I'll be here midnight if you need me.
So
We might be here till midnight, I guess, if we do start today.
I hope
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the 8 o'clock Thursday night meeting? Voting.
Aye.
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 Both sides?
Commissioner Culbertson votes aye.
Okay. Anything else under administrative business before we move to the consent agenda?
I don't have anything else.
Then, as commissioners had a chance to look at everything on the consent agenda, does anything need to be removed and voted on separately?
So Commissioner KAAZ needs to have the
Check registry to be removed? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the check or the consent agenda without the check registry.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner KAAZ votes aye.
Commissioner Culbertson votes aye.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the check registry.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on any items on the check registry? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner KAAZ abstains.
Commissioner Culbertson votes aye.
That carries. All right, so we're ready for planning and zoning. Crystal, how are you today?
I'm well, Commissioner Smith. How are you?
Very good.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is a request to approve Resolution 2020-21. This is a special use permit for RV and boat storage. It's a renewal of this permit. This business has been in operation for a couple of decades now. Staff recommends approval of this. The Planning Commission also voted unanimously to recommend approval of this request. Staff is requesting recommending 20 years approval of this, since again it's a renewal and there have been no complaints or anything. Mrs. Cobble is here and will answer any questions that you may have, as will I.
Okay, well, this requires a public hearing, but has anyone does this require a public
No, sir.
hearing?
Nope.
Does not? Okay. And
Public hearing at the Planning Commission.
okay, then unless Mrs. Cobble needs to speak, I've been by the facility many times. A very nice facility. I think it serves a need for the community for storage. I mean, if you didn't have a sign out front, you wouldn't even know it was there. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the boat and RV storage.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-21, the special use permit for Cobble RV and boat storage for 20 years.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner KAAZ votes aye.
Commissioner Culbertson votes aye.
Thank you.
Alrighty. And the final item that I have here this morning is a resolution for Resolution 2020-22. Sorry, that's a mouthful. This is a special use permit renewal for Holyfield Winery. I believe everybody's fairly familiar with Holyfield, located there at 158th and State. The Planning Commission also recommended 7-0 to recommend approval of this. Staff is supportive of this request as well. This is also a request for an extended 20 years, again, because we've had no complaints.
Is there any chance of rezoning that? I mean, because like I said, it's been there forever. It's right there next to the city limits. I didn't know if a rezoning would be more appropriate for that.
It's on the interstate.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like that business is going anywhere except for expanding. So.
Mr. Van Paris?
The property owners could apply for a rezoning. It would go through the normal course of procedure.
Okay.
I believe the reason it was done as a special use permit was to not have to go through the formal rezoning process. And secondly, since it's an area at its inception was surrounded by agricultural property, there was the issue of possible spot zoning. But really the option is available to the property owner if they chose. Special use permit, for all practical purposes, accomplishes their needs.
Okay. Well, it's surrounded by city. I just would like to make sure it gets.
Pretty sure the property right across the street in the city is now zoned commercial.
Okay.
And Ms.
So
Myers.
it would be a
on-
continuation of zoning if we ever.
If they
But the property owner would have to request it.
Yes.
Okay. So I know we're all familiar with this. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-22, the special use permit for Holyfield Winery for 20 years.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner votes aye.
Commissioner Culbertson votes aye.
Thank you. Thank you. That was easy,
Yeah.
Crystal.
Let's do it like this every time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We ready then for a work session on discretionary fees?
I think you would have the public comment before then.
Okay.
If there was any
All
public
right.
comment that wasn't.
Well,
on
do
the
we need
agenda.
to do an executive session first?
You could do that at any time, Your Honor, correct, Commissioner.
Whoa.
Your Honor.
Whoa. That is a promotion.
I don't know.
I retract that.
Yeah, approach the bench.
At your convenience.
All right, what does the commission want to do, the executive sessions quick, or how long will executive session take?
I might as well let the public comment happen.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would be asking for 15 minutes.
Okay, and we got about 20 minutes of public comment? We got 45?
I don't know how many signed up. I think there were a few
Okay.
that were signing up this morning yet, so.
All right, we're early. Let's go ahead and do the public comment so folks don't have to wait. Who was first on the public comment list?
I do not know that.
Okay. Right.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes, sir.
while we're waiting, I've said a great number of things over the years that probably caused you hurt, but I do apologize for that recent comment.
I hear you. No offense taken.
That's the best thing you're going to be called all weekend, I bet.
Your Honor.
But then again, I know where this is coming from. Over the years, I've used plenty of attorney jokes with Mr. Pierce at his expense,
Well, of course.
and he's taken them well. As he says, his bill will reflect it.
So Paula, Robert Tolman.
Oh,
Oh, she's first up.
okay, so she can come forward then. 5 minutes.
What was your last name again?
Jaskinia. Would you like me to spell that?
Please.
Jaskinia.
I've got an email from you.
Yes.
And my address is 13162 158th Street. The comments I would like to make today are regarding the special use permit application that Kaw Valley Sand and Gravel has made to operate a sand pit in southeast Leavenworth County. Please bear with me. Breathing and talking in this mask is something to get used to. Would it be possible at all for me to remove the mask during my comments, or is that not approved?
I do.
Yeah, well,
You can, you're 6 foot
Thank you.
away.
Oh, so much better. In Kansas, real estate property taxes are paid in arrears, with the first half due by December 20th, and the second half due by May 10th of the following year. Therefore, the first half of 2019 taxes should have been paid in December 2019, and the second half by May 10th of 2020. I have compiled a report that will show a pattern of delinquent and non-payment of real estate property taxes for Wyandotte County properties owned by Kaw Valley Companies, Kaw Valley Sand and Gravel. Kaw Valley's pattern of delinquent and non-payment for the real estate taxes is documented in my report back to 2015. Therefore, non-payment because of any recent economic impact of COVID-19 would not be the reason that these taxes have not been paid. In most instances, Leavenworth County's interaction with Kaw Valley Companies has been on the basis of paying Kaw Valley for work that they have performed for the county. In the instance of a sand pit being operated in Leavenworth County by Kaw Valley Companies, the reverse would be true, and Kaw Valley would be responsible for making tonnage or royalty payments and a yearly payment of $50,000 to Leavenworth County. Final real estate tax payments for 2019 were due on May 10th of this year. The information for this report was pulled on June 16th and shows that as of the 16th, Kaw Valley owes Wyandotte County $314,489.07, with some payments still being owed from 2018 and 2017. Of that total, $27,471.26 are penalties or interest that have been incurred because of this non-payment. I checked the website for Wyandotte County again this morning, and all of these taxes still remain unpaid, and approximately $1,200 per month continue to be added to this total for penalties and interest. In the report I put together, and I will give you guys copies as soon as I'm done speaking, the third page shows that Kaw Valley's 11 county parcel numbers, the amount tax owed, and the amount still due, and fees incurred on the unpaid amounts. The information behind that page is supporting documentation from the Wyandotte County website. I've talked to various people in the Wyandotte County Treasurer's Office, and I'm told that website for individual parcel property tax information is updated each business day overnight. Further in my report, you'll find printouts of the front pages of the Wyandotte County Echo publication. On a yearly basis, the Wyandotte Echo publishes the names and amount of those who are delinquent in paying the prior year's real estate taxes. This is pursuant to the 2014 Kansas Statute 19-547 that states that each county treasurer will cause a statement to be published with respect to unpaid or partially paid delinquent personal property tax, and will show the name of each delinquent taxpayer, their last known address, and the total amount of unpaid taxes, penalties, and costs. The name of Kaw Valley Companies and Kaw Valley Sand and Gravel appears multiple times each year for delinquent taxes from 2018 to 2015. These publications only reflect delinquent taxes for that year and does not address whether taxes prior to that year reported were paid or remain unpaid at the time of publication. In 2018, Kaw Valley owed $18,300. 2017, they were late with $26,200. 2016, $27,600. And 2015, $35,400.
Your 5 minutes up.
May I make one?
No, your 5 minutes is up.
Okay. Would you like to have copies of my?
Please. Yes.
Would you like me to leave copies for Commissioners KAAZ and Culbertson?
Yes.
That'd be great, please.
Leave it there.
Just
You can just leave it right there.
Right here?
Yep, that's fine.
Would you like copies as well?
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you for all the work you did to present.
Yeah,
Preparing
thank
that.
Thank you. Who's next on the list?
Well, Becky to stay in here.
You got the list.
Mr. Wiggins is next.
Mr. Wiggins?
Hello, Commissioners.
Morning.
This will be very fast. I would like to give a statement with a summary of my objections to this sand pit, and also to ask a question. I was cycling on K32 and I was struck by a car. I have several fractures in my tailbone and my backbone, and I will not be able to attend the long meeting on the 8th. I just can't stand or sit for that long. So I was wondering if I could just donate the time I'm on the agenda to someone else, and how that would work.
You have to sign something.
Just sign something?
Notarize that you
Sign
donate.
and notarize?
That you donate your time.
Now,
Okay.
question, is he allowed to call in? Could he call in, Mark?
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
if
pretty much. I've been here many times, and I don't know if I really have anything new to add.
Okay.
And not the important thing that everybody hears what I have to say, as long as you guys know what I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could just leave this.
Absolutely. Put it on the desk here.
And if you need a notary, I had an email from Tim Johnson and his son that live out there. They're both notaries, and they'll do it for free.
Okay, well, I don't want to pay for somebody for that, but anyway, if I could
Just set it there on the table.
If you just leave it with those, we'll make sure it gets circulated.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And who's next on the list?
Stacy Schmidt, thanks.
Gotta catch my breath. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Stacy Schmidt. My address is 17322 Golden Road. I am a lifetime resident of Leavenworth County, and today I would like to present you with a petition. I'll leave it right here.
Stacy, if you weren't here, but if you want to remove the mask while you talk and then put it back on.
That'd be awesome. I only made one copy because it's over 40 pages long. The petition reads, the signatures on this petition represent legal registered voters of Leavenworth and Wyandotte counties who strongly oppose the development of a sand pit operation in southern Leavenworth County. We believe creation of a sand pit operation creates dangerous and unsafe road conditions for our community due to increased commercial truck traffic. By signing below, we ask that the 5 Leavenworth County Commissioners vote no in creation of this sand pit operation in southern Leavenworth County. To date, there are 699 signatures representing 438 addresses. This is an ongoing effort, or fluid, as you call it. 699 is a meaningful number. Perhaps its impact is best understood when viewed together with the number of votes Commissioner Shimke and Commissioner Stieben earned to win the 4th and 5th district respectively. On April 3rd, 2019, Commissioner Shad Shimke won District 4 with 531 votes, and Commissioner Mike Stieben won District 5 with 681. Sherman Township has a total of 1,969 registered voters, 1,743 of those from the township and 226 from the city of Linwood. This petition symbolizes over 35% of the registered voters in Sherman Township. As part of the community engagement process for the adoption of the 2020 Leavenworth County Comprehensive Plan, the public was asked to complete a survey. 2,124 Leavenworth County residents took this survey. Once again, the signatures on our petition are comparable to 33% of the people that took that survey. The 699 signatures in opposition of the proposed Lanique Sand Quarry are especially significant as circulation of the petition ceased in March 2020 due to social distancing mandated by the coronavirus epidemic. Thank you for your time and consideration of the 699 people in opposition of DEV 19008. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Mr. Pettibone?
Good morning. Could you state your name, please?
My name is Rich Pettibon. My address is 20076 219th Street, Tonganoxie, Kansas.
Good morning.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak in opposition to the Lenape Sand Plant project. I would ask that my comments be made part of the public record. In order to be clear, I'm not opposed to sand mining. I've worked for a dredging company for almost 35 years. I understand the need for sand in our cities, our county, and across the country. I am opposed to this proposal because of the haul route through residential neighborhoods on roads that were not designed for this volume of heavy truck traffic. Excuse me. Today I want to talk about two reasons why this proposal along this haul route should be rejected. First, I want to talk about the noise. Then I want to talk about the safety. Now, I'm thankful that I don't live along the haul route anymore. A lot of Leavenworth County residents do. So I put some thought into how many trucks would actually drive by my house every day if I did live along there. All my calculations are documented and sources are cited in a booklet you will be receiving this morning. If Call Valley plans to make 80 round trips per workday, that means a Call Valley truck would pass my house 160 times every day, 5 days a week. We know there are about 30 trucks already on the road that are not related to the sand plant. 160 plus 30 is 190. Call Valley customers also will be coming for wet sand or rock. We haven't heard how many customer trucks will be coming, but everybody wants sand. Let's say 50 customer trucks will be on the haul route every day. 50 round trips means 100 trucks past my house. Now, I don't know if the hauling hour restrictions for Call Valley will apply to their customers. Will they? Anyway, now we're at 160 Call Valley trucks plus 30 existing trucks plus 100 customer trucks, for a total of 290 trucks passing my house every day. That's a lot of trucks. I think these numbers are on the conservative side. So I did some math to see how often a truck would be passing my house if all the trucks came at a steady pace. Only throughout the 8-hour proposed period, a truck would be passing my house every 100 seconds. If my house was somewhere along a straightaway along the haul route, where the truck was up to traveling speed, maybe 45 miles per hour, that truck would be moving pretty fast at 66 feet per second. If my road frontage was 300 feet, it would take that one truck 4.5 seconds to pass by. I used to own a house that was just over 50 feet from the center of the road. On the average decibel level, the average decibel level of a truck at 45 miles per hour from 50 feet away is 90 decibels. So out of every 100 seconds, I would hear a quiet 95.5 seconds and a really loud noise for 4.5 seconds. That makes an average decibel level of 76 all day long. Decibel average is calculated on a logarithmic scale, similar to earthquakes on the Richter scale. So the decibel level of 90 has a huge impact on the average, even though it's for a short period of time. That clearly qualifies as noise pollution. Now let's say my house was at an intersection where the truck had to make a turn. The truck would slow down to make the turn, so maybe it would average 15 miles per hour, so it's quieter, but it would take longer to go by. 15 miles per hour is the same as 22 feet per second, so it would take 13.6 seconds to pass by 300 feet of road frontage. So out of every 100 seconds, I would hear it quiet for 86.4 seconds and then a really loud noise for 13.6 seconds. What's even worse is that at the intersections, even though the speed is lower, the noise level gets worse. Loaded trucks coming from the Lenape operation will be accelerating to climb the next hill to achieve the maximum speed allowed. Trucks traveling either in or out of the county will be decelerating and braking in order to stop, whether for a stop sign or oncoming traffic, and then accelerating after turning a corner or exiting the intersection.
Time's up.
Time's up?
Yep.
There's a whole bunch about superintendent of honor.
Your time's up.
Baser.
Your time's up.
Richard, could you email that to us? Copies, and we can distribute it.
Yeah.
It's in the booklets that you guys will be receiving.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Tinberg?
Becky, can you go call Vicky back in? She lost connection.
Mark Tinberg, 16904 Kreider Road, Bonner Springs, Kansas. I have a clear view of the 161st Street Railroad crossing from the farm headquarters. More days than not, the railroad has a crossing blocked with parked trains, sometimes for 5 to 10 minutes and as long as 2 to 2.5 hours. I do have photos and a cheat sheet at the farm where I kept track while I was at the location to see, and it's many, many hours added up that this crossing has been blocked. This problem seems to be getting worse each passing year. On June the 29th, just a couple days ago, the railroad blocked 166th Street, which is the main artery into Johnson County, for several hours during quitting time rush hour. Then they proceeded to block 161st Street also, which then eliminated any access to or from Johnson County. There were some very upset motorists. We had cars backed up for over a quarter of a mile on both sides of the tracks, and the only way they could get across was to go to Eudora or Bonner. Call Valley needs to be asked what they expect their trucks to do when this happens. 2 hours. Sometimes that crossing is blocked, and that's their proposed route. My other concern is the truck route that has been proposed. If Leavenworth County designates this as a truck route, then any truck will be allowed to use it. The problem is that it is going to dead end into private property. What is a non-Call Valley truck going to do when the truck route ends and does not continue on in the form of a public truck or a truck route to continue on? Over time, the drivers will be aware of this problem and just continue on using Golden Road, 166th Street, and or County Road 26, which are all non-commercial roads. This will degrade the road, causing higher maintenance bills, which will be paid for by the Leavenworth County taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Ms. Williams?
Hi.
Good morning.
Sarah.
Hi. How are you today?
Sarah, good. How are you?
Good.
Sarah Williams, 12725 166th Street. I'm here today to leave you with a collective document created by concerned citizens of this county in opposition of the proposed Lenape Sand Quarry. I speak on behalf of this group when I respectfully ask that you carefully consider the facts presented in this important document. To date, Leavenworth County and staff have provided the edge pieces of the puzzle, if you will, and we respectfully ask you to consider the remaining pieces of the puzzle. Each of these pieces are equally important and ultimately necessary to properly view the entire project. Further, you are Leavenworth County Commissioners, not Kaw Valley Commissioners, nor Spring Trust Commissioners. We ask that you consider all sides of the quarry proposal as it is irresponsible to only consider the applicants. Many times over the course of the last year, you have plainly stated your preferred method of communication is written. So today I will leave 5 copies of our document, and by the end of the day, I will send a digital link to this exact document
and respectfully request it be added to the public record for DEV-19-0008. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morgan?
Thanks for working on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for working on that document.
Oh, thanks for reading it.
Next. Oh. Oh, okay. That's it for public comment? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to go into an executive session.
I move that the board recess for a closed executive meeting for the discussion of a subject involving legal interests of the county as justified by KSA 75-4319B2 for consultation with legal counsel for the board, which would be deemed privilege in the attorney-client relationship, and that the board resume open meeting at 10:10 a.m. in the meeting room of the board. Present in the executive meeting will be Commissioners CULBERTSON, KAAZ, Shimke, Smith, and STIEBEN, Senior County Counselor David Van Paris, and County Administrator Mark LOUGHRY.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Cobb votes aye.
Commissioner Culbertson votes aye.
All right. Okay. So let the record show that we returned to regular session. Our executive session was limited, involving legal interests of the county, and no decisions were made.
Mr. Chairman, prior to the adjourning of this meeting, I would ask that I be indulged to inform the board of the actions that were taken yesterday in district court. The county did forward to the court a motion for temporary injunction that would have, in effect, declared that the interlocal agreement between the parties had, in fact, been terminated by the City of Lansing's notice of termination, and that consequently the control of the fire district should be turned over to the Board of County Commissioners. The court did deny that motion on its own, entered a temporary injunction, more or less maintaining the status quo of the governance of the fire district until such time as there's a final adjudication on the underlying action filed by the county. The next action in this matter will be a case management conference to be conducted on July 21st.
Okay, so in a nutshell, we are not taking over the fire district?
Not today.
Okay. Well, I respect the judge's ruling, and I thank the judge for hearing this case in such a timely manner. So we'll just deal with it.
Yeah, so I'd only add then the status quo, which is something that's been brought up many, many times, is clearly the position today until the next hearing or ruling. I would remind everybody that the status quo has also been filled with litigation and lots of cost, and the worst part about all of this, I think, is a loss of quality personnel for the fire department. And so I would just ask all of those involved that, and I think I've heard the Board of Trustees mention this many times, that it's everybody's goal and intent to serve and be focused on public safety and to do the right thing. And I'm hopeful and optimistic that that can continue to be done while there's still some uncertainty there. So getting to a place of stability, I think, is the most important thing. But again, the status quo is where we are today, and while I think the status quo has yielded very unfavorable results, it is what it is. So,
and I would echo that from our conversation. I would just hope maybe, like it was said, maybe a solution could still be had by these parties if they would work together and sit down and come to a conclusion where we don't have to continue down the path of litigation. It's not benefiting anybody in Leavenworth County.
Well, I think we were lucky enough to get it heard as quick as we did yesterday.
I just like to stay out of court.
Yeah, you're in the wrong business. So, anyway. Anything else on that subject?
Nothing further today, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Good. All right. Thank you for doing all that and getting that before the courts as quick as, and getting it prepared. But like I said, at the end of the day, got to respect the judge's decision. So, anyways, anything else on our regular meetings? Anybody have anything to report on?
Let me think on the report piece. I was going to ask just a couple of quick things. So, seems like it's been maybe as much as a month. Last time we talked about kind of the comp plan and where we're at with Olson, and I know that they wanted to have kind of a follow-up discussion and meeting, and I think it was our thoughts that that's something that could have been done via Zoom even when we were in a lockdown type status. So the fact that it's not still happened via conference or otherwise is troubling to me that that's still hanging out there. So didn't know. I probably should ask Crystal when she was here if we have an ETA or a next step on when we'll be engaging with them.
Just yesterday, I received a copy of the new Chapter 7 for review. I haven't had a chance to actually read it. It was yesterday afternoon. I think that that's probably all she's waiting on to schedule, is to make sure that that chapter reflects what our meeting that we had with them. I would suspect that they are also on work at home and stuff like that, so it's hard for them to collaborate as well. I doubt it's very high on their list, so they're probably not pushing it, but I think we probably can move forward with it whenever the commission wants to, after we have a chance to review that chapter. So.
We've got over, 300,000 in it, so it's pretty high on my list.
Yeah.
And then the other quick question I had was our discussion last week with Tonganoxie, which again, I can't thank them enough. I think they've done a heck of a job on that park and continue to be focused on growth. The allocation that was discussed as far as the difference in the funding and that being distributed to the Port Authority. What is no timeline was established or mechanism, any idea how we'll go about, managing that?
Commissioner Shimke, I was requested by your county administrator last week to prepare a letter to send to the city of Tonganoxie requesting that they remit the balance of the grant that was provided to them back to the county treasurer. Unfortunately, because of time, I've not been able to do so. I will do so this week. From that point forward, the funds would be returned to the county treasurer for the use as designated by the election that created the sales tax that funded that grant. So we would proceed from that basis. At that point, it would be up to the board to decide whether to actually provide the Port Authority with discretion on the allocation of those funds, or how you would go about using them. But that would be the next step, Commissioner, to request the city to remit the balance.
So there is no scenario where they can submit it directly to the Port Authority? It has to come through the Treasurer's office in order to be redirected?
For bookkeeping purposes, I would suggest, and I'll defer to Mr. Loughrry on this, but I think it'd be best that it be returned to the county, and then the county could allocate it for additional consideration for where to use it for economic development.
So we cannot actually give this money to the Port Authority. It is bond proceeds. We have an Attorney General's opinion that says we do not have authorization to transfer bond proceeds to the Port Authority. That's what created an issue with the original interlocal agreement on that industrial park. So we will hold the funds at the county, and the board has made it clear that they want the Port Authority to determine the appropriate expenditure of those funds. But the funds will be held here until the Port Authority makes a presentation to the board on how they recommend use.
So is it because of the makeup of the Port Authority? So, for example, does the LCDC get around that?
It was specific to bond proceeds. There is legislation that allows us to pass other types of revenue, but not bond proceeds. And we can pull that Attorney General's letter up for you. I think we still have it.
Commissioner, I think one of the justifications was the Port Authority has the authority to issue bonds on its own, so they did not deem it proper for the county to be able to issue bonds on its own and then transfer those bond proceeds to the Port Authority without going through the statutory mechanism that the Port Authority would have had to go through to issue bonds.
I'm sure everybody can appreciate that perception is reality. Externally, when you see funds flow through a government entity like the state of Kansas, it's oftentimes like the abyss.
Mhm.
So there's not a lot of faith or probably belief. And so I want to make sure that this is well documented, whatever motions need to be made, that there is no confusion about where these funds are going, who is able to request them, and that if there are decisions made at a later time, that's what I'm trying to avoid, because that's happened in the past. Economic development groups have been completely defunded, and then I'd like to point to the lack of economic development that we've had. So I want to make sure that we don't make that same mistake.
Well, as long as we're all still on the board, I think we're okay.
Only this board can determine how those funds are spent. They're not allocated to something else. They're not budgeted for something else. Only the Board of County Commissioners can determine how those funds would be spent.
I did visit with the city administrator at Tonganoxie this past week, and one of the concerns they have is they're preparing their budget, and they were trying to allot, they thought, they're okay, I think, going to the Port Authority and following that procedure, but the problem is the timeline where we're coming into the budget process here, and it could be problematic, so I don't know if there's an expedited manner in which they could get this back before us, or in order to...
Well, just to clarify, though, it's always good practice to not spend money that you don't have.
Well, they have shovel-ready projects, and they want to present them to the Port Authority, but they wanted to be able to, not to have unnecessary delay in economic development. That we've tried to delay that.
If you don't have it in your budget, it can't be budgeted. So you can have shovel-ready projects that are on the shelf, and then when funding becomes available, you can then move them forward. But I don't know how that would negatively impact the budgeting process.
Well, it's the fact that they were hoping that they would be able to obtain or use some of those funds, and they have projects in mind. So if there was a way that we could expedite the process for them to get it to us rather than take months and months of delay, I think that's the main issue.
How many months has the money been sitting there idle?
Well, I'm just telling you what the conversation
I wanted a
was.
sewer line too, and they come in here and want to buy more ground.
Commissioner Stieben, a possible timeline would be, I'll email a letter to the county or city administrator this afternoon requesting the remission of the balance of the grant funds. Upon receipt of those funds, notify this board that it now has those funds available for consideration for other economic development projects. If it's this board's desire that the Port Authority be involved in that decision-making process and on an advisory capacity to this board, notify the Port Authority and ask that they consider moving this as quickly as possible.
That was just my concern.
Well, does every other city have that option too?
Well, yeah, I think those other cities, if they have projects that are on the shelf, they should absolutely contact the Port Authority. As far as I know, the Port Authority is open 24/7, 365.
Yep.
I mean,
I just wanted to bring that to the attention because they are, trying to get their priorities set.
I thought the priorities were set
to be
to
clear,
run a
though,
sewer line.
I have to ask the stupid question here. We could donate $1.7 million out of the general fund to the Port Authority. True or false?
I wouldn't use the term donate, but yes, we could budget $1.7 million to be allocated for economic development, and it could route through the Port Authority.
And then you could receive this grant funding, the $1.7 million, through the treasurer, and the treasurer could then allocate it to the general fund.
Now, these funds are bond proceeds. They have different guidelines and controls over them. And the specific to this $1.7 million or any bond proceeds, the Attorney General has ruled we cannot pass bond proceeds to the Port Authority.
Commissioners,
that's not what I said.
Those bond proceeds have to be kept in a specifically identifiable account throughout their duration until they're finally expended for purposes allowed by the sales tax resolution and election. So the bottom line is this: those funds will be made available for economic development purposes. We'll ask the city of Tonganoxie to help us expedite the process.
But again, just to be clear, you could have that $1.7 million in bond awarded back to the treasurer. That has to be earmarked and has to be spent, let's say, in Bill's department for projects that have been identified, road projects. Correct?
Yes, it could be
projects
used.
that we were already planning
Road,
to
road
do.
projects are authorized under the sales tax initiative that was put forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to Wolf of Wall Street the thing. I'm saying there's a way to ultimately figure it out that follows policy. So
The money's available. A direct transfer to the Port Authority in the what you're proposing, I believe would be inappropriate. That's just my opinion, because it's an end around what the Attorney General told us we could do with the funds. If you're saying we're going to take those funds, put them into our general fund, and then take money from the general fund and transfer it to the Port Authority, I just think I don't agree with that process. I think if we budgeted it for next year.
Well, I don't agree with a lot of processes that the state comes up with.
I understand. And if we budgeted it for next year as a budgeted expenditure, I think it's a different scenario.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the general point is that, in all of these things that we've tried to do, we've tried to expedite, make it easier to get economic development moving, and we don't want to delay that unnecessarily.
And I think sewer lines will speed economic development up to that park.
And I'm not opposed to that, and I would hope that they're meeting next week or the week after to start trying to move that forward.
Yep.
Okay.
And that would be a good project.
That question's come up, and it's a fair one. So you're working on a letter is what the next step is anyway.
But if it comes through the Port Authority and comes here and they want to buy more ground that's not shovel ready, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not voting for it. So, need to get the park done completely. And I'll vote for that. So, anybody else attend anything? I attended the ribbon cutting at the Leavenworth County Humane Society. Big turnout. Went to Fairmount Township Fire Department, or township meeting at the Fairmount Fire Department in Basher on Thursday night. And I think that's about it. And Fairmount will be asking for us to budget rent for the EMS to be down in their station. So there'll be a written proposal sent to us shortly. Have you received it yet? Has anybody received it? Okay. We should be getting it, but it's for budgeting. They wanted to let us know before budgets were done. Commissioner KAAZ, did you attend anything? Did we lose Commissioner KAAZ? Commissioner Culbertson, did you attend anything?
Well, I've just been fielding a lot of questions about the issues that we've had lately.
I think I didn't want to go there. We'd be the rest of the day talking about that.
Exactly. Yep. And went and checked on the Millwood Bridge. It's coming along fine. The old bridge is completely gone. They started new construction on the new bridge.
So everything's on schedule.
Yep. Looks good.
Okay. Keeping track of the days?
Yep.
All right.
The hours.
The hours? Okay. All right. Did we lose Commissioner KAAZ?
I'm trying to reach her right now. I'm not getting a response. So
okay.
There was. I was just going to add. So I attended the Port Authority meeting last week. There are a number of projects that were shared. I think several of which have a much shorter timeline than previous ones that have been communicated. So I think hopefully in the next number of months that there'll be some more official, announcements. But there are some projects for anybody that is paying attention that are being completed and underway, and expansion. So I don't know that I'll buy specific examples today, but I think in the next number of weeks or months we'll have some we can share. And then Jeff and I attended a meeting with Trans Systems, who's doing the Eastern Gateway Bridge due diligence study, and so I think we've got a couple of options that hopefully will that have now been approved for consideration to actually start with the more detailed due diligence and scope. So probably, I don't know that they gave us a timeline, Jeff, but I'm guessing at least a couple of weeks from now, maybe a follow-up, or Bill, you have some thoughts?
They had about 8 options, and we narrowed it down to 2, I think.
Yeah, we narrowed it down to 2 options. I think it was because of the floodway and the floodplain. I think that the two options that we narrowed it down to create the best options that we have available for that location.
Yeah, it looked like God built us a road base through the floodway for about half of the project.
Yeah, by taking it down that section of floodplain instead of floodway, we avoid bridges. It also allows for some future expansion tying points to the roads in that area that could be later phases of some future project for that. I thought it was a very good conversation. Be interested to see what they come up with.
Okay.
Nope, agreed.
Did Commissioner KAAZ back?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay, have you attended anything over the last week?
You just caught me off guard. I just got plugged back on.
Or any Zoom meetings or telephone meetings?
I don't think I had any telephone meetings, but I have one on Friday
Okay,
with the BOCC,
okay.
a Bureau of Prisons update.
Yeah. Okay, and I think it's sad to announce that St. Luke's Cushing will be closing the doors permanently. So, and that will be effective October 1st. I believe October 1st. It's too bad.
That will be the the close down. But they're also before that closing down the beds that they have for the like sick people who are ill, for hospital beds.
Okay. So it's going to be phased out till October 1st.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's sad to see that happen.
Very.
That has been around for a long, long time.
I know that we got the letter. I don't know if anybody's really spoken to it. The federal penitentiary. So the project. I think the valuation I heard was maybe $326 million. What that project's going to be to build a new structure, and for what it's worth, if anybody's counting, that adds to our non-taxable real estate balance for anybody that.
It does.
Zero tax dollars.
Yeah.
I think in this case, the alternative might be, though, that they close the prison and we lose the jobs. So I think it's unfortunate that we don't get any taxes, but at least we are keeping maintaining the jobs.
That it employs a number of local contractors for construction and other economic components to it.
Right.
And maybe we'll be lucky enough to get the original structure into a museum or some type of, tourism aspect.
Bed and breakfast.
It probably is. I think it was Mr. Kramer telling me that, it probably is. I mean, second only to Alcatraz as far as.
I was going to say like an Alcatraz almost.
Yeah. Well, just hope everybody who lives in Leavenworth County that works there and doesn't jump across the river.
Agreed.
So
Maybe, Mark, you can address, we did have a meeting of this CARES Act subcommittee, and
Yep, I was going to bring that up.
Okay.
First of all, last week, Friday, set in on a conference call with the state in regards to the CARES Act funds. It's hard for any of those conference calls to be too effective when there are 410 to 20 people on the call, and there's only 105 counties in Kansas, so I'm still trying to figure out how we did get that math. But the good takeaway is that they've determined that rather than hold half of our funds and distribute half the funds, they're going to go ahead and distribute 100% of the funds July 15th, provided we adopt a resolution that says we'll play by their rules. Not crazy about it, but that's what it takes to get the money, so here we go. One of the challenges is that with it, this committee, the SPARK committee and the Financial Advisory Committee has mandated that a portion of those funds be made available to school districts, municipalities, which we were already anticipating sharing the funds with them, and other taxing entities, as well as other organizations that might be impacted. So with that, the committee that includes two commissioners from that were approved last week, and myself and the clerk, we met this week to discuss that. think we've come up with a pretty reasonable breakout of how we can reserve funds for those and hit those topics that the state's looking for. I'll be bringing that forward next week for the full commission to consider so that we can officially distribute that out and solicit from the cities and any other taxing entities their plans on how they would spend that money. Because the August 15th is now the deadline instead of September 15th. We have to have a plan to the state by August 15th that explains how we're going to spend those funds, or we send the funds back. Which means we need these entities outside of our organization to provide us by August 6th so that we have a chance to review and implement them into our plan that we then have to submit. The board will have to approve that before it goes back to the state. So it's a short time frame for us. It's a shorter time frame for the cities. That's why I'm trying to get it.
Next week they'll have 30 days, in which case most of them only meet twice.
And some only meet once.
Right.
So they'll be meeting more than that. They got to do this.
It's the cards we were dealt. So we're going to try to work as quickly as possible on our end. Now, we don't have to have our official plan together by next week, but I wanted to bring forward a proposal that would be, this is how we're going to distribute funds if there's a need and application made and they agree to play by the same rules.
Okay. And
kind of the other curveball that the state threw in, and I shouldn't say it's a curveball, we just weren't sure until last week they confirmed that the county is responsible for all of the funds. So if we distribute it out to somebody and they spend them inappropriately on a non-COVID related expenditure, we, the county, are responsible for going after them to get that money back and giving it to the state. So the state will notify us that didn't meet the requirements. We will have to give the money back to the state, and then we'll be responsible going to these entities, asking them to then reimburse us because they misspent funds.
Is there so I'm thinking reactive, which is a reimbursement, versus proactive, which is future planning.
Yep.
We're sitting here talking about a hospital closure. We've obviously got first responders, across the county that could probably find all kinds of creative ways to leverage these funds to help prevent and plan for and be proactive. And that would all still, I assume, qualify rather than only reimbursement of expenses.
Yeah, the money's available for all allowable expenses, and there's some guidance on it. But yes, obviously reimbursables, if you have direct COVID-related expenses, reimbursement is 100%. You can do that. It's the future plans that you start getting in the area where you got to be careful, because if you say, we're going to spend the money on this, and we give them the money and then they go spend it on something else, or it's later determined that that program wasn't actually a COVID-related and allowed expenditure, then you got to get the money back. So I think while we're going to earmark a certain amount of funds for certain agencies, I believe that the proposal event, when we finally get it out, is that before we distribute any of those funds, we will have to do a thorough review of what that plan is, and then all expenses have to be routed back through us to be then entered into the state's database. So I think we're going to have to be pretty careful on how we distribute the funds, not to intentionally hold anything up, but to make sure that the county wouldn't later be responsible or on the hook for, because if you get, like let's say a township came in and made application, and we gave them the money, and then they went out and spent it, and then it was later determined that it was an allowable expense, they're not going to have the money in their coffers to reimburse us. I'm not as worried about the cities necessarily, but a smaller entity like that, we're just going to have to be a little more careful.
What was the deadline? I was trying to recall the deadline for us submitting the resolution that we have to pass.
We need to have it to the state by July 13th in order to receive funds on the 15th. If we don't have it to them by the 13th, it just delays when we'll receive our funds. We will have it to them by the 13th, as provided this board approves it.
Can we approve it Thursday night?
It will be on next week's agenda.
Okay.
This is Commissioner KAAZ. Do the cities as well have to have their resolutions adopted by that date as well?
No, they just have to have their resolution adopted before we release money to them. So it's, to get it from the state, we have to get that resolution adopted before the 13th in order to get the money by the 15th. Once the money's here, the cities would only have to have their plan in place by August 6th. So they have until the 6th.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else?
I know how fun those phone calls can be, so thank you.
Yeah.
And for the committee for having those discussions. So.
Yep.
Mark's done a lot of work on this. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Well, if we don't take the initiative, I don't think the state is going to volunteer much information up. And based on that phone call, I imagine there will be 75 to 80% of the counties who don't take advantage of the funds just simply because they don't understand the process and they're going to miss some of these deadlines.
Well, a county with 80,000 to somebody that's got 1,300, probably not.
Yep.
So, anyways, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and we'll go to our work session.
So moved.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 All right. We are ready for...
Both sides.
Commissioner Culbertson votes aye.